Another year that we're disappointed by Rolex. Another year that we're still going to try to get Rolexes. Another year that we're still going to have to wait to get Rolexes. And we are back again with the Mind the Growth podcast. As always, I am Chris. That is Eric, but you guys already know that. We don't have time for an intro because Eric, do you know what we have?
Are we talking watches?
No. We're avoiding cease and desist. We are talking about watches, and we have a lot of new Rolex watches to talk about.
We're talking watches and cars getting coffee, right?
Those are your words.
Okay.
That might be what you're doing. I am talking about watches at the moment.
We're all friends here, Jerry. We're all friends here. All right. So what do we got? Big news today.
We got big news out of not only Rolex, but a lot of other manufacturers. I think because we have become Rolex fanboys that we probably are going to spend a little bit of time to
do the others
about
really
Rolex.
Even matter at this point?
I mean, Patek and AP do, but unfortunately those are out of my price range. So yeah. I don't even talk about them.
Well, fun fact number one on Patek, they released a bunch of watches and none of them are sports watches, which I found fascinating.
Okay.
Did you see that?
I did not, but I also know that you're not able to get any of them either.
Yeah. Well, pretty much every watch we're going to talk about today, nobody will be able to acquire unless you've already had 10 Rolexes in your collection already that you bought from authorized dealers. So a guy can dream, though.
Yeah, we're going to have fun with it.
Cool. So lead us off. What are some of the highlights?
So some of the highlights that we have are, I guess the one that's making the most noise is absolutely going to be the GMT. They decided to, let me share my screen.
Left-handers rejoice.
I know. I am right-handed, but you know what? I would probably put this on my right hand and wear it with the lefty. I was just thinking the difficulty of unscrewing the crown and trying to wind it or change the time. I don't know if I could actually do that with my left hand, as embarrassing as that sounds. I'm not very strong with my left hand.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I would actually consider wearing it on my left hand and just doing it.
I saw some photos of that.
It may even be more comfortable because the crown is not going to jab into my hand if I go to like clap at a sporting game or if I bring my wrist up a little too quick, like oftentimes it does. So it may actually be a good life hack for us right-handers out there to avoid the crown.
I like it. So there was a lot of people that were anticipating a Coke. And for those of you who are not as familiar with the Rolex brand, this style watch is called the GMT Master 2. So it is a pilot's watch originally. And the dark color on the top and the lighter color on the bottom signify the sunrise and then night. So a lot of people were anticipating.
GMT, sorry for the interruption.
Mm-hmm.
Greenwich Mean Time. That's pretty much the world time. So
exactly,
just for reference.
Well, and it was a pilot's watch as well too. So the original one which is now referred to as the Pepsi, is blue and red. So this green color combination was something that was completely out of left field. People were not anticipating it. Some people were labeling this as the Sprite, or I'm sure there's some sort of other action figure that people will refer to this one as well too. But totally out of left field. I like it though. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it looks great. I was expecting a lot of green. I think for the past few months, we've seen a lot of the manufacturers come out with green dials, green crowns, a lot of different green combinations. A lot of them actually paired with gold, on the bracelet or the case. So I was half expecting a gold case, a gold bracelet, and a green face on some of the Rolexes, which I think we found one of them as a combo. But that seemed to be a big theme coming into a lot of the releases this year, is gold and green, and then a lot of blues, which we'll also see. So I was half expecting it, but I like it. I'm not sure why randomly they just did a left-handed version. I am curious if they're going to release a right-handed version of the same combo. That's a little confusing to me because, as we know, how many left-handers are there in the world?
I think it's approximately 10%
Yeah.
is what I was seeing statistics. And that was people on Twitter and Instagram, kind of the watch world. So don't know how factual
between
that is, but that's kind of what
10
I'm
and
saying.
12% according to Google. So
Perfect.
I don't know why they're trying to capture that niche market of left-handers, but whatever. They can do whatever the fuck they want, basically. So
I like it.
good for you, Rolex. Yeah, this was a big one in my view, and I know for you too.
No, yeah, maybe give some background of why this is as cool as it is. I mean, it looks like a silver or a chrome watch with a blue face, but what does that actually mean?
So it's a platinum metal, which already is a rare watch to have and a highly sought after one. But the fluted bezel is really the game changer on this watch. Platinum historically, as far as I know, has been a very difficult metal to work with, especially to craft in specific ways. And that's why, according to Rolex, they've never had a fluted bezel in a platinum watch before. So the fact that they were able to manufacture this is a feat in and of itself. And I think this may be the most sought after watch that Rolex put out this year.
Absolutely. Well, especially the presidential bracelet, the fact that it's platinum, and then most of their platinum, I believe all of their platinum watches have this blue dial to them. I know that the Daytona does. The previous day date did, but the previous day date had the domed bezel and not the fluted bezel. The Daytona did not have a presidential bracelet that had the kind of the what all the other Daytonas are,
Oyster.
other than the Oyster Flex, the Oyster, but the.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name, but also a dead giveaway of the exclusivity on this one is that it says price on request. So that means they'll charge whatever they want, and you probably can't get one.
And this was the other gold one that you had talked about. Let me go to 40 millimeters. I had this pulled up earlier, right here, the gold and the green.
There you go. Yeah,
so they had
I'm calling this the 2022, the color combo of the year.
So on the anniversary watch that they did, I believe it was last year. It might have been the year before, but I believe it was last year. They had the Day-Date 40, and it was in a rose gold, and it had the olive face. So it was the rose gold with the olive face, very similar to this. And that watch has been extremely sought after. So it'll be interesting to see. This one's not the anniversary edition, but you do have now the yellow gold and a little bit of a lighter green face instead of the olive. So I love this one a lot too. It's a beautiful watch. Yeah.
So the first one that I think I saw come out with this combo was the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch. If you stop sharing, I can show you this one in particular. All right. So I think this looks incredible. I don't know what their trademarked moonshine gold on moonshine gold is supposed to refer to. It looks more like a rose gold to me than a yellow gold.
Oh, because it's because it was the first watch to go to the moon.
Well, yeah, but does this?
So is that a play on words of moonshine?
I don't know.
That's true. I think it was just a play on words.
It looks like rose gold to me, but I think this one looks fantastic. I would definitely be interested in this. Although one thing we can have a brief chat about is the Moonwatch Swatch collab. Have you been hearing about this?
I did, and I also heard that people were doing the worst thing you could do by reselling them for thousands of dollars when they're supposed to be they're going to be they're going to be available in the masses in the next few weeks. So just hold on to it. Don't try to make a big buck off of it. It's not the right thing to do.
Well, it seems like arbitrage is everyone's game these days.
But I do love the attention that it's bringing to somebody who's first getting into watches with swatches. I think it's a great move. I think that that kid who gets his first watch, that's this Swatch Omega style, Speedmaster style, it's going to be an inexpensive watch, but that could have a that could leave a mark on that kid and get him or her interested into watches. And I mean, I remember my first watch when I was like 14, 15 years old. I still have it. So I hate to see people kind of profiting off of what this is. It's supposed to be getting the ecosystem more excited about watches. So, but I love what they're doing.
So there's a lot of strong emotions and mixed feelings about this collaboration. I have a few. I totally get where you're coming from. I see it as a little more negative. I'm a Speedmaster owner. So
I don't have one. So
yeah, if I didn't, I would probably be in your camp. But to me, this devalues the entire Speedmaster line just right off the bat, because it's what, $300 or $400 retail, and a normal Speedmaster professional retails at like $6,500. So why would anyone get a regular Speedmaster when this is essentially the exact same thing? Putting movement, case, and bracelet aside, because those are all clearly different. I do think it was a genius move by the Swatch Group, who owns Omega. So they're going to make a ton of money on this. They were sold out immediately, and it's an infinite production run, essentially, like you said. So clearly there's a market for it. Clearly people want it. And I agree. It's a good entry point for people to get into watches, especially mechanical ones at that. So I like it from that sense. I think it's a great business move. Hats off to the Swatch Group, because you nailed it. But as a Speedmaster owner and a watch fan, I can't help but be a little disappointed at the cash grab and the devaluing of the brand.
Yeah, I can totally understand the pain point there.
But moving on, one watch that I thought was interesting, which I don't know if you saw this one. I actually sent it to Brandon earlier today.
Is it the Square Hublot?
No. We don't talk about Hublot anymore.
I know. It hurts me to say that I kind of like it, but
yeah, I told you some of their new watches are really cool looking. But putting that aside, my first real watch was a Tag Heuer, and I've had mixed feelings about them for a while. They just put out more generic and mostly focused on like racing pieces like the Monaco, etc. This I saw today and I was pretty fascinated by. Did you hear anything about this before I get into it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this is basically made out of ceramic and synthetic diamonds. So the entire face of this watch is basically like crushed lab-grown diamonds, as well as the crown, and you can kind of see diamonds periodically throughout the case itself. And I think part of the movement, I think it's a tourbillon as well, as you can see here. But I've never seen anything like it. It's, I think, overall, maybe it says in this article, it has like 11.5 carats total within the watch itself of diamonds. So lots of diamonds. and
you said they're all lab grown, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the CEO, he's the son of the LVHM owner and CEO. I forget his name, Theodore or something, Arnault.
Just say something that sounds very classy.
Yeah. Very French.
Oui.
It's right here. Frederick Arnault. So he's the CEO of Tag, son of
Theodore, Frederick. It's all the same.
Son of the LVHM owner. Anyways, he posted about it on Instagram, and he's basically like, yeah, based on the amount of diamonds that are on the face, you'll be able to see this watch from space because of all of the reflection it'll have. But very interesting, and I think a cool play overall by Tag. What are your initial impressions?
I agree. I mean, it's very, the story behind it's very attention grabbing, and I think that's probably what they're trying to do, is bring more awareness to the brand. How do we do something that's outlandish and over the top? And you put a 11 carats worth of diamonds that are crushed up into a watch and make it a tourbillon and say it's going to go to the moon. I mean, that you just need to get Elon Musk behind that, and he'll be that thing will skyrocket in value.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as much of a watch guy, but maybe.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, I've got two more, so let me get my screen shared for these last two. All right, so the Air King. For those of you who are not familiar with the Air King, they basically have put it in a Submariner style. They switched around the face. They added a 0 here for symmetry, so you've got 55 and 05 here. So now the symmetry is a lot better.
This used to more of the Explorer case and.
Yeah, exactly. So you see how this kind of curves in now. This section looks a lot more like a Submariner.
Yeah,
right.
With the crown guards and everything.
Exactly. The crown guards, they had some change in there, but one of the biggest changes, because they used to make fun of all the 5s in this watch, because you'd have 5, then you have 25, 35, 50, and then 55. But 05 was the only one that was just 5. So they added in a 0 there as well, which was kind of interesting. But the fact that I like the case a lot better now. It definitely looks a lot more like a sub, but it's just an aesthetically pleasing watch at this point, in my opinion. I wouldn't buy one, but I like the way it looks.
I had at one point considered buying a used one. I think
I'd rather get an
awesome.
Explorer, I think, than the Air King.
So are you more on the black face or white face? Maybe we shouldn't call it black face, but it is what it is. Black face or white face Explorer?
I like the black. I think it's a lot more classic. I prefer the black face.
Yeah.
What about you?
I happen to like the white, and they're saying it's becoming more rare or sought after or whatever. But the white face with the orange, I think hour hand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty cool, but the black.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
All right. It rolls us into our last one here, the Yacht-Master 42. It's actually, so for those of you who are familiar with the millimeters, the 42 millimeter watch is traditionally a little bit larger. Kind of an average is going to be somewhere between 39 to 40. So this is, it shows as a larger watch with the 42 millimeter, but when you put it on your wrist, the 42 kind of fits like a 40 to 41 millimeter Submariner would fit. So it fits really nice. It's not as large. And I know some people were kind of turned away because this was a 42. But I really like this watch in the rose gold, but when they brought it out in the yellow gold, I don't love it as much. The yellow gold, the rose gold one does have some red verbiage here. I think Yacht-Master's in red versus the yellow gold has kind of all the lettering on the face is going to be one color. I like it. I don't love it.
Yeah. I've never been a huge fan of the Yacht-Master. I would just get a Submariner over it anyways, especially now at 42 millimeters. That's just too big for me. I'm sized out at pretty much 40 millimeters. So I wouldn't get it just for the size alone. But I do really like the flat black ceramic bezel. And it actually brings up something else that I don't know if you saw this article, but if you stop sharing, I'll show you something on Hodinkee. Before the releases, a few of their writers had put out their predictions for both what they thought was going to happen and what they hoped for. Okay. So here's a few. The ones that caught my eye, this guy, he wrote about how he hoped for a new sub with a Yacht-Master bezel and a red sub writing, which looks incredible. I would buy this in a heartbeat. It's like the best of all of their watches put into one. So from that perspective, I can get on board, no pun intended, with the Yacht-Master. Right. But this looks really cool. So it made me think of it. I also saw, because of the green. Oh, the green, a lot of people Sky Dweller. Predicting as a green Sky Dweller, which would have been really cool. And then lastly, was this it?
Well,
So
putting in the black within the each of
yeah,
the was it the chronometers or
yeah, titanium. So someone was predicting a titanium
oh, interesting.
case and bracelet for the Daytona, which could have been really cool. I saw some other prediction elsewhere where um, they were predicting some of these hands would be red and just adding more color to the Daytona, which I thought could have been cool too. But I guess it wasn't to be.
No, I don't ever anticipate any drastic changes done to kind of the flagships, whether it's the
I know.
Daytona, oh, especially the Panda too. So that white face Daytona that Eric was just showing was that people refer to it as the Panda. So that is like one of the meccas of Daytona. It's one of the ultimate staples. So having Rolex go through and make some significant crazy changes or marks on it, I don't think they would ever do that. It'd be amazing, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Putting Rolex aside for a second, what are your thoughts on Seiko?
I'm not overly educated on them. I've been, from what I've read and kind of educated myself on it, which has been limited, is they have amazing finishing. So I've heard that the product always comes out great.
Yeah.
But I've never worn one. I've seen them in person. From a price perspective, I mean, at that point, I think that your money is better. I always look at watches as investments. I think you're better investing into a Rolex, whether it's one that's a few years older, if you're not able to get one new. But what do they do? What are your thoughts on Grand Seiko and what's going on?
Yeah. So the reason I bring them up is because they just released a like true diver's watch with their spring drive movement. So to give a brief background, Grand Seiko, it's the luxury brand of Seiko, which is a Japanese watch manufacturer. And Seiko became famous because they invented a quartz movement back in, I think, the 80s or 90s. And they were very innovative in that sense to have the quartz movement in their watches. And since then, they've made a name for themselves by creating lots of unique innovations in their movements, spring drive being one of them. And the innovation that people talk about is they have, from their perspective and visually from what I've seen, the smoothest second hand out of any watch manufacturer ever. So what that means is it's a very smooth hand that you don't see it tick like others do. It just is like one constant movement. And that's based on how the spring drive works, which I can't even start to get into because I don't understand the engineering of it. But nonetheless, that's their claim to fame. And like you said, their finishes and their dials, a lot of Japanese influence. I happen to like it because I am a fan of almost all things Japanese. They just seem to do everything in the best way possible. What I thought was interesting about this is that this is, from my view, one of the more true diver watches they've come out with. I mean, just on the surface, it looks like a Submariner from a distance. The the question I have for you, which is a question
Hmm.
I ask myself pretty often, with these types of diver watches, because almost every manufacturer has some version of this that looks like a Submariner. Can
Yeah.
you see yourself ever justifying a purchase of a diver watch that's not a Submariner that looks similar? And
Yes.
I'll tell you
Yes.
my answer after.
Yeah. So I can, and I would probably buy a Tudor, which is owned by
Yeah.
Rolex. So
So,
they actually just came out with an amazing, I think it's the Black Bay 58. It looks very similar to the Explorer. The new one they just
Black
came
Bay
out with
Pro.
was, yeah, Black Bay
With
Pro. Exactly.
Yeah, so we'll bring that up for everyone. So this is another interesting one. It looks a little different. I do actually like it on the, I don't know if this is a canvas or whatever material it's on, band. I think it looks cool. And I like Tudors a lot, but at the same time, like I can't seem to justify it for myself, because if I'm going to wear a diver sport watch, then I'm just going to wear the Submariner I already own.
Right.
So I just I don't know what occasion would bring me to wearing a Tudor, or why I wouldn't want to wear my sub over it. It's
I
hard for me to figure
Yeah,
out.
I think for me at least, because I've actually thought about buying a Tudor. I've been really contemplating it. Just from if you buy a Rolex, and depending on where you're walking around, what city you're in, where you're traveling, you could be looked at as a target almost in some sense. I mean, you're walking around with anywhere between a ten to $50,000 watch on for kind of the entry level ones, especially with the aftermarket pricing of what they are. So, just from a sheer safety standpoint, I've heard a lot of stories from London where people have been robbed pretty frequently. I don't know if it's as bad here. I'm not sure about New York or kind of what San Francisco would look like. But, if I wanted to wear something that's very nice, reliable, where I could feel a little bit safer, maybe traveling with, I would love to wear a Tudor.
I agree. And I actually happen to like, I think this was their release last year, the
Is it the
blue
Chrono?
bezel. So no,
Oh, I do like that
the
one.
blue bezel Black Bay I thought was really cool. And not only because David Beckham was the person to announce it, but I just happen to dig it. But part of your point where I don't know if I fully agree. What person that's going to rob you is going to know that this is a Tudor versus a Submariner because they look identical. So if somebody sees this from afar and they're already planning to rob you, what's the difference? Just the fact that your Submariner's worth more? Is
Well, I
that
think there's
your
a lot of,
main gripe, that you're fine with losing out on $4,000 versus
well, I
the
think
10 to
you're,
50?
just becoming more of a target. If you've got a $20,000 watch on versus if you have a $4,000 watch on, there's a lot more
But
incentive.
my point is, how would that? I don't think the thief would know that. So you're a target either way. Is my point.
I've, as of recent within the watch community, I've seen a lot of stories of crime kind of upticking against people that are wearing high end watches. And I think it's because we're starting to get these ridiculous valuations and kind of values of these watches. So, I'm not walking around thinking that I'm going to get robbed whenever I wear my watch. But, you had asked, why would I buy something other than, a Submariner to get a Submariner style? And that would probably be my reason why.
Yeah, I gotcha. I like this one a lot too. I like the heritage look.
Well, can you go back to the blue one real quick too?
Yeah.
So for those that are looking at this and thinking, okay, this is a blue bezel with the black face Tudor, what does that mean? Why is this so similar to the Submariner? And then ultimately, why is it so cool? So the Submariner that looks very similar to this, it's not made out of steel, it's made out of white gold. So that watch is significantly more expensive. So the fact that Tudor created a watch in steel that resembles a watch that's white gold, and what's the sticker price on the blue face sub? Probably 50s.
Yeah, they're going for, I guess this one's 50. I think they're in the 30s maybe.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, so you've got a watch that looks amazing, that looks very similar to another watch that is a white gold watch that's somewhere between $35,000 and really $45,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the movement is very similar too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's manufactured by the same parent company. So, I mean, you're essentially getting a Rolex with a different name on the face. So at the same time, it's like the argument of what is it? Is it Grey Goose that people say if you buy Costco vodka,
Kirkland.
Yeah, it's like manufactured in the same facility or something. So everyone says it's the same thing. Yeah, same but different. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're paying for the name on it regardless.
So overall releases, are you excited? What did you like most? What was your favorite out of everything we just went through?
I mean, for sure, the platinum day date was probably the coolest one that I saw. I was a little disappointed. I thought there would be some cooler, more groundbreaking options that were released for 2022, since the last couple of years have been so quiet overall. Um, so a little disappointing. I thought they were going to do something with their popular models, whether it was a sub or the Daytona. Ironically, is due for something. Uh, this model version, I think they released it in 2016, and they every like 7 to 9 years or something, they seem to do an update. So it was kind of due for one, and a lot of people were speculating that they would see something in the Daytona, but whatever. They're probably trying to keep up with the manufacturing. So
Right.
who knows the reason. So overall, I would give the releases a C, not even C
It's
plus.
fair.
But I do like the platinum, if only.
Yeah,
What
right.
about you?
I think I'm on the same page. Another year that we're disappointed by Rolex. Another year that we're still going to try to get Rolexes. Another year that we're still going to have to wait to get Rolexes.
Scorned lovers that
this-
that can't move on.
And if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And just so you guys know, in the next few weeks, we are going to be releasing some new videos, one of which I'm going to be giving you a story of how I got my first Rolex through an authorized dealer and saved a bunch of money. So,
And how I got one by winning an auction and paying way too much. Until then, story
Until
time
then.
for another day.
thanks everyone for joining. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you again.
Thanks. Bye.